Right now, a former D.C. police officer is facing 65 years in prison based basically on a violation of police protocol. It is an unprecedented case that led to a murder conviction. The officer, Terence Sutton, was pursuing a suspect when the suspect drove his moped into oncoming traffic, where he was struck by a car and killed. Sutton didn't attack him. He didn't even touch him. It's a case you really won't see anywhere else in the national media. The prosecution's entire case was built around the fact that the officer had violated department protocol by continuing a pursuit. Sutton was convicted last December of second-degree murder, conspiracy to obstruct, and obstruction of justice. Sutton's supervisor, Lieutenant Andrew Zabavsky, was also convicted of conspiracy to obstruct and obstruction of justice for covering up what happened. So here are the facts. October 2020, Sutton and 3 other officers spot Caron Hilton Brown driving a moped on a sidewalk with no helmet. They attempted to stop him. Hilton Brown took off. That's when the chase ensues. Police released body cam footage of the final seconds of the pursuit. This is from the passenger's camera. You see Hilton Brown ride the moped through an alley with Sutton in the driver's seat accelerating behind him. At one point, Sutton turns off the lights. Hilton Brown keeps driving. He pulls onto the street where he's struck by an oncoming vehicle. Hilton Brown later died of his injuries at a local hospital. This incident happened just a few months after the murder of George Floyd. Tensions in the country high. Generally, the mood toward police was even more negative than it is today. And Hilton Brown's death sparked public unrest. He was a black man and Sutton, a white police officer.
Justice for Caron! Justice for Caron! Justice for Caron!
There were days of protests and violent clashes between officers and demonstrators outside the police station in Northwest D.C. Prosecutors argued that Sutton and Zabavsky didn't follow protocol and accused them of trying to cover up what happened. The Metropolitan Police Department forbids pursuits over traffic stops. The current guidelines say officers may engage in a vehicle pursuit to apprehend a fleeing felon only when every other reasonable means of effecting the arrest or preventing the escape have been exhausted, and officers shall not pursue a vehicle for the sole purpose of effecting a stop for a traffic violation. According to prosecutors, Sutton's initial report on the collision said he had tried to stop Hilton Brown for a traffic violation riding on the sidewalk without a helmet, and Sutton had also been reprimanded for improperly chasing someone else a year earlier. Prosecutors also say that Sutton and his supervisor did not alert the department that investigates accidents. They didn't call internal affairs or immediately inform the watch commander. They didn't take statements from witnesses, sent the driver of the striking car on his way. At one point, they even turned off their body cameras. None of that is good, all right? In fact, 2 other officers in the car the night of the crash testified against Sutton in the trial. One testified he wanted to call off the pursuit, suggested out loud to Sutton they should get a warrant for Hilton Brown instead. Okay, so reprimand him, fire him. Prosecutors chose to throw the book at him, and in an area where they knew the jury pool would be sympathetic. Did Sutton do something wrong? It sure seems that way. Should he have entered the pursuit at all? Probably not. But second-degree murder for violating department protocol? Police protocol issues are typically handled internally or with a civil lawsuit. At the end of the day, it was Hilton Brown's decision to run from police. If he'd stopped his moped, he would still be alive today. And here's a detail the judge did not allow the jurors to hear, that Hilton Brown was a known member of a local gang. At one point in the body cam footage, you can hear Sutton actually calling him out by his name.
Caron! Hey, see if, make sure where'd that car go?
The judge wouldn't allow the jurors to hear about Hilton Brown's criminal history, or at the time of the crash, that he was wearing an ankle monitor as part of his release in a criminal case and was carrying more than $3,000 in cash. Right now, Terence Sutton is out of custody but awaiting sentencing on what could be a very tough sentencing. Joining me now is his attorney, Michael Hannon. Thank you very much for coming on the program. Appreciate it. I would think it's going to be hard for a judge to throw it out now that he's allowed it to go in front of a jury and a jury has convicted here. Are you hopeful that the verdict will be thrown out?
Oh, absolutely. I'm hopeful because in cases like this, oftentimes the court gives the benefit of the doubt to the prosecutors. They say, we, the Department of Justice, want to use our criminal laws to try to reform policing in the District of Columbia. You know, we've never had a George Floyd case. And the pressure on the Department of Justice is immense to bring cases against police officers. And we don't have George Floyd cases in D.C. because our officers are among the brightest, the best trained, and the most familiar with the people that they are policing. And Terence Sutton was actually one of the superstars. He was part of a trained unit targeting people like Karan Hitton-Brown, who had a criminal record going back to when he was 10 years old. So we're confident and hopeful that this theory will end with this case.
But it seems to me, at the least, there has to be a concession that he did things that he shouldn't have done. I mean, you listen to what the other officers in the car said, et cetera. That's a totally different issue from whether he should be criminally charged.
Well, frankly, the other officers testified they didn't think it was a pursuit. But more importantly, the police department has other policies that are consistent with the Constitution. One of them is called stop and frisk. It follows, as you know, Dan, a Supreme Court case which allows police officers to stop and investigate individuals they believe are carrying a gun. And the truth of the matter is that's what started this pursuit. They believed that Hilton-Brown had been acting oddly all during the day, got into a fight with another drug dealer, left, came back. They suspected he had a gun, and they wanted to stop him and investigate that. That's permissible under D.C. policy for stop and frisk.
Well, look, I'm shocked to hear that there's a conviction, a criminal conviction, particularly of murder, based on these facts, no matter how bad you think it is. I believe you that they were under enormous pressure to bring the charges. I think that's what happened in the post-George Floyd era. I think the idea that he's facing up to 65 years now is a travesty of justice, and we shall see what happens with your motion. Michael Hannon, thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Coming up, Senate Democrats